So 10 years ago, 3 people recorded a Skype call and called it a podcast. Nowadays, everyone's doing a podcast. So we thought we'd jump right back on that bandwagon. Welcome to vSoup. So guys, it's been a while. We've all got a bit older, a bit grayer.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been up to?
Well, since 2017, our last episode. Well, not much. I mean, nothing's happened in 4 or 5 years.
Haven't been out much recently, anyway.
No. Mostly sitting around in my home office for the last year and a half, at least.
Yeah, every day can be a no pants Monday.
That used to be the reason we didn't do video.
Yeah, video is a little uncomfortable, come to think of it, but scared to take it.
We've moved to the times. We've switched from Skype to Teams. So whether the production quality will be any better, who knows? We'll find out.
We used to say that we were too ugly for video, right? That was the excuse, you know.
I guess that's why we have you in profile.
Hey, he knows his angles.
That's what Ed's been up to the last 4 years, is figuring out his angles.
Yeah, it's stupid because all I have is my laptop camera here. I didn't buy a fancy camera, and now lockdown, this whole home office thing's about to finish here, so now I'm really not gonna buy a new camera. So
I pretty much went all in. I mean, I have key lights, I have cameras, I have microphone stands, I have a green screen as well.
Wow.
One of those Elgato Stream Decks, so I can turn on and off lights from that, including the cloud light behind me there.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. I can turn off and on the cloud live. Yay!
Full on Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
About all I did was buy a BenQ Taiwanese monitor that doesn't suck terribly, and it got me through the past year. Chair's pretty horrible, but I'm not going to invest in a new one now.
That's the big difference, that, you know, we've all been doing conference calls of some form for many, many, many years, but it's only really in the last 18 months that using video on them has become mandatory. You know, there'll always be one person that might accidentally leave their video on. But now it seems it's much more, it's almost expected in some circumstances, which is a little bit strange.
Yeah, in most settings, I would presume they are. Most of my meetings are video now, so yeah.
Yeah,
but
actually,
I've been working remotely for years, right? I've been used to spending a few days in the office and a few days home, whatever I feel like it. The biggest advantage of this, in a way, if you can say that there's something positive about the whole pandemic thing, which is a stretch, but it has been that everyone else is now sort of tuned into the fact that you can do more work remotely. And for us, who's a consultancy company, that makes a lot more sense. A lot of our customers are actually appreciating this now. I don't actually have to physically meet some of our pretty shady consultants, right? So that's been a good thing. The last year and a half, I've been in my office physically one time, and that was last week, since March 2020. But I also never been busier. So it works. I mean, if you have a job like I do, where you can actually do that work remotely, it works very well. Then again, I have the luxury of not having small kids. I actually have a physical office I can close the door to and kind of go to work. I don't have to use the kitchen table for my laptop, right? So I have this whole setup and all those things. So that helps.
Yeah, with me and the small kids, they still pop in here from time to time. Normally, my video call members don't really mind, because I'm working now for a pretty traditional Swiss company, and they really like this face-to-face stuff. They prefer you're in the office, but it's the law here in Switzerland that you have to work from home if possible, unless the company's testing once a week. So, I mean, video is the rule. If you don't have your video on, they're like, "Hey, turn your video on." So it keeps you at least it keeps you like from lying in bed taking calls, and
yeah,
it keeps you somewhat responsible for what you're doing, I think.
Yeah. I've also been doing Teams calls from my car, so everything works. I mean,
wow. Yeah, so we've obviously, the way we work's changed a little bit in the last 10 years. But what about what we've been doing? Looking back at some of our original topics, we were talking about 10 years ago, P2V, being surprised that P2Vs was. I remember that was sort of one of the early things we were talking about. And I still think I'm sure I heard the other day if someone was doing P2V still, which I thought was amazing. But I suppose now people doing V2Cs. Are you taking what was a VM and turning it into a container? Is that the next step?
Well, I mean, I think that I think that the whole virtual machine to container, that can be done correctly or incorrectly. I mean, when you're containerizing something just to containerize it these days, that's kind of trendy. I mean, it might be something that's meant to be a massive monolith application, when in reality you should take whatever the VM is doing, break it apart into different microservices. I'm sorry, I talk way too much of these hipster IT words these days.
Bipolar hipster IT.
And refactor the application, right? Which is more of a re-architecture than an actual like lift and shift sort of migration, right?
Yeah, but why would you lift and shift a big monolith? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, a VM is a perfect container for that application, right? So why, if you're not re-architecturing or refactoring it, why bother with it? I mean,
yeah,
if it's just to get the
not don't fix it, I guess.
People hire consultants to do it all the time. I hear.
It doesn't make it any more sensible to do so.
And I mean, think about it. You're a consultant getting paid hourly. Hey, would you containerize this giant database with a web app? Yeah, why not? Right? You don't want me to refactor it? Okay, yeah, no problem. Let's do it. Right? I mean,
yeah, well, we've always had a tendency to overcomplicate things, right? So, as a species, I mean, so everything can be complicated if you want it to be.
Well, I guess if it was simple, we wouldn't have jobs.
There is some truth to that. I mean, I'm still doing consultancy work, right? On specifically on the VMware platform of things. I'm not that much out in the field doing installs anymore. I'm kind of more of the technical lead and for my team of consultants and more of a pre-sales kind of resource than a post-sales installation guy. But still, it's pretty much on my part. It's pretty much vSphere, VMware, and a lot of Cloud Foundation these days, actually, both for VMware PSO, but also locally for ProAct. So we're still seeing a lot of work being done on kind of your bread and butter kind of vSphere virtualization stuff.
Is everything still 3 hosts and a SAN, or have we seen some big shifts? Obviously vSAN's done a pretty big work. I just realised I'm wearing a vSAN t-shirt today. But yeah, has the HCI style? Did HCI win? If there are winners and losers.
We're seeing more deployments on vSAN now than anything else. So in our customer base, yeah. But then again, I only see kind of the VMware part of things. Other hypervisors might have other storage solutions used for them for the most part. But as far as VMware installations go, new ones now is pretty much vSAN and also a bunch of NFS tacked onto the vSAN, pretty much. And that's we're not seeing Fiber Channel, we're not seeing iSCSI. It's vSAN or NFS, pretty much.
It's was the other thing I was thinking of, again of how things have moved on. I was talking to a customer the other day, and they were talking about ripping out their old and creaky infrastructure that was a FlexPod.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact, obviously, you know, I remember when they were all brand new and they were just a PDF. Yeah, now you know the FlexPod is kind of it's the old car at the bottom of the garden that is just looking a bit rusty and everyone wants to get rid of now. It's interesting to see things move on.
Yeah. So now we're also seeing a lot of VxRail, to be honest. So, but that also depends on who you're partnering with, right? So, as a Dell partner, we see a lot of VxRail. If we were a HPE partner, we wouldn't see that, right, in the same manner. So,
I heard Nutanix is catching some traction. I mean, but I guess they're kind of big competitors to VMware at this point.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot with AHV right now. So I think in a lot of the cases we're seeing, it's pretty much VMware versus Nutanix or vSphere versus AHV in many cases. So it's definitely a competitor at this point.
I suppose you got to take the view of actually it's the workload that matters. So you know, as long as the hypervisor is now just part of the platform, and as long as your workload can sit on that platform, it becomes less important. That the commoditization, I suppose, really has kind of kicked in.
For the hypervisor part of things, it has, especially for the hypervisor. But what VMware still kind of wins with is the ecosystem around it. Everything else, it's NSX, it's vSAN, it's vRealize automation for that part, and all of the other kind of integrations with everything else, which still kind of gives them the edge. And that's also something we're seeing with the uptick of installations on VCF as well, or Cloud Foundation, is customers really want that. I hesitate to call it a single pane of glass, but it's kind of, they want that entire ecosystem in a box, in a way, as long as they actually do want to do traditional server virtualization or VDIs. So, and there's still a lot of small VMware installations around there as well. I mean, 2 or 3 known installations that no one's touched for years and no one dares touch until they pay us to fix them. Or move them over to something else, right? So we recently had a customer that are actually still running 5 VMs. They have everything else is out of the house. Everything else is cloud-based or hosting-based or whatever. They have 5 VMs left that they can't get rid of. So we had to architect a new vSphere installation for them for 5 VMs.
Latency reasons? Or something. Is it based on latency reasons or why they got them?
No, it's based on them not being able to migrate their applications to something that makes sense. So it's more of a, it's not a technical issue, it's more of a customer specific issue with how they manage stuff. Which means they had to buy 3 new hosts and a new storage and whatever. And I tried to tell them that it doesn't make any sense to use this kind of money on it. You should just buy this as a service from someone and give them the VMs and they can run them. That makes a lot more sense. But the board kind of, no, we need to have these on premises in our own offices. So that's a no-go. So, okay. They bought an expensive VMware rig from us to host 5 VMs on.
Wow.
Even after I tried to tell them it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So there's a lot of strange things around still. But you guys have pretty much moved out of that sphere in a way, haven't you?
I took I kind of did some containery cloud native stuff for a bit. I'm back into the storage world, although again away from block storage and more unstructured and file stuff. So seeing a slightly different side of the data center, which is it's a nice change of angle.
No, I haven't touched VMware products much over the past year. Actually, I'm kind of slid into like the hipster IT side of things, doing a lot of Kubernetes, a lot of continuous integration, continuous deployment stuff. I'm sort of I started working for a new company roughly a year ago, and I'm kind of helping them set up their first kind of DevOps practice with together with R&D and a lot of the production guys to actually leverage some of these cloud services to do predictive maintenance and stuff like that. And one thing I realized is all the VMs, they still exist, and they're still like kind of the basis for which all of this stuff runs on, even if it's called serverless or whatever. It's just sort of you go up one level up the stack. It's another level of abstraction. That's it, but it's pretty confusing level of abstraction, but getting used to it now,
Yeah, I mean, when everything's an API, you don't care what's underlying behind that API anyway, right? And you don't care, pretty much.
Well, I mean, the thing with Kubernetes,
you're consuming the API, you're not producing it. I mean, yeah. The
thing with Kubernetes is like you clearly still see the nodes there that are actual VMs.
Yeah.
Like it's still, it still resembles somehow, what we were used to 10 years ago when we started this podcast,
Yeah. And my team is deploying Tanzu also now for customers here. So, which is VMs and containers side by side in the same vCenter. So it's a natural evolution also from the VMware side of things. There are still mainframes around, right? So we're not going to get rid of VMs anytime soon.
No.
Not even remotely, right? But we're moving towards where you have a choice of how you want to run things, depending on what it is. And that's also the entire basis of the whole cloud thing, right? So consume whatever you want from wherever, as long as it fits the purpose. And that's kind of the whole thing. We don't need to cram everything into one specific set of rules or a specific set of way of managing stuff, as long as we have interoperability between them.
Yeah. Flexibility, cost, all that comes into play.
It's but a few things have changed since our first episode, and I'm kind of amazed. I didn't know that it was actually 10 years ago until Chris mentioned it before we started recording. So,
and I actually remember us saying, "What actually is the cloud?" in our first call.
Yeah,
we should have a re-listen to that, and we should do like a reaction podcast / video where the three of us listen to our first podcast and then we comment on it. We stop, we pause, and we comment on it as we go through.
What the hell was he on about there? Right. I'm not sure I would be able to take that going back 10 years and listening to myself talk something about something 10 years after. That's well, if we do it, we should actually do it live with recording. I don't want to listen to any of that now beforehand. If we do that,
it's going to be like listening to an hour-long answer phone message of your own voice.
Yeah,
you're going to see cringe horrifically.
But we did like 60 episodes or something like that, right? Yeah. So there are two things there. In 60 episodes, we have to have said something that makes sense. But I'm pretty sure that 90% of it doesn't make any sense anymore at all.
No, I'm sure it makes sense. It's just the relevance is it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to jump up and close the window because it's like we have like World War III of hail going on. It just started. Crazy. I'm scared. My car's outside. It's like the balls look like this big, It's what I got insurance for, I guess.
Yeah.
And there we have the epic title for the episode of The Balls Were This Big.
Balls this big. It's pretty small balls if you think about it objectively.
Yeah. I'm not sure I want to talk about or think about your balls objectively, so or subjectively for that matter. It doesn't make any more sense.
And on that horrific mental image, I think this probably sort of wraps up our sort of our introduction of vSoup Reloaded. Perhaps we'll take a look into some of those episodes, some of the wild predictions that we might have made, and see how accurate we were.
Yeah, that could be fun. I think I need a beer for that, though, or a few beers.
I got one.
Yeah.